Have you ever been told you don't belong? That you're too much, too bold, or too different? This is the story of a woman who turned every no into her runway, redefining what it means to show up unapologetically. Get ready for a journey of empowerment and triumph. The envelope didn't match the rest of her bills. Thick ivory paper sealed with wax, her name embossed in shimmering gold. At first, she thought it was a wedding invite, or maybe one of those fake promotional stunts influencers post for likes. But as she slid her finger under the flap and pulled out the card, her breath hitched. It wasn't a prank. She had been invited to the Met Gala. Her name, printed right there, in bold, on the same invite sent to Beyoncé, Zendaya, and Rihanna. For a full minute, she just stared at it, the words blurring behind a flood of disbelief. This had to be some kind of mistake. She lived in a one-bedroom walk-up on the south side of Chicago. Her studio was her closet, her sewing machine lived on a milk crate, and her fashion shows live streamed from her rooftop with her cousins as models. But someone saw her. Someone chose her. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Her best friend Naya texting, "You seeing this?" Apparently the news had already leaked. Her name was on the list, the official list. She laughed out loud, half out of nerves, half because the whole thing felt like a twisted joke the universe was playing. The Met Gala? The Met Gala? Where fashion royalty flexed their power and stylists dropped $250,000 just to prep a look? She sat on the floor holding the card like it was a winning lottery ticket, but in the back of her mind the doubt crept in like it always did. They must have sent this to the wrong person. Someone's gonna call and say, "Oops, they don't really want me there, not looking like this." But under that fear, something else stirred. Pride. Because if they didn't want her, they wouldn't have sent it. This wasn't luck. This was recognition. She wiped her eyes, stood up, and looked at herself in the mirror. No stylist, no glam team. Just her, skin glowing, hair wrapped in a silk scarf, and a fire in her chest that no label could dim. The invitation was real. The moment was hers. And now, the world was watching. She should have known better. But how could she not share it? She posted a simple photo of the invitation, held in her manicured hand, sunlight kissing the edge of the card, with the caption, "It's official, I'm going to the MET." She didn't expect the post to blow up. At first, her mentions were full of love, heart emojis. "You did it, sis! South side to the skyline." But as the hours passed, the tone changed. Sharp, sneering, ugly. "The MET? Girl, you mean the Metro, who let the hood in? We're really handing out invites to anyone now?" One tweet got over 10,000 likes in a few hours. A picture of her from an old Instagram post. Hoop earrings, crop top, long acrylics, captioned, "Met Gala or Magic City." The internet laughed. She didn't. Then came the fashion blogs. Anonymous insiders claiming she wasn't on theme. Stylists quietly questioning her aesthetic. Some even suggested she'd cheapen the carpet. But the worst part wasn't strangers. It was people who looked like her. "Sis, this ain't the BET Awards. Don't embarrass us." And that hit different. She'd fought her whole life to be seen, to get respect in rooms where she was always too loud, too bold, too black. Now that she finally had a seat at the table, they were trying to snatch the chair before she could sit. She turned off her phone that night, curled up under a patchwork quilt made by her grandma, closed her eyes, tried to remember why she started designing in the first place. It wasn't for them, it was for her. For the little girl who got sent home for wearing gold bamboo earrings, for the aunties who stitched magic out of scraps, for the neighborhood that raised her on rhythm, resistance, and style. They could laugh now, but soon they'd see. She wasn't going to the Met Gala to fit in. She was going to change it. Before she ever held a Met Gala invitation, she held a stubby pencil and a stack of grocery receipts. That was her first sketchbook. Whatever paper she could find in the kitchen junk drawer. While other kids played outside, she sat cross-legged on the floor, drawing gowns inspired by her mama's church hats and the girls in the hair salon magazines. She didn't dream of ball gowns. She dreamed of armor, dresses that made you walk different, Speak louder. Take up space like you were born to. By 13, she was flipping thrift store finds into one-of-a-kind pieces for cousins, prom girls, and the occasional baby shower sleigh. No fashion school, no mentorship, just instinct, fabric, and faith. So when that invitation came, she didn't think, what should I wear? She thought, what should I say without saying a word? Because this wasn't just a dress. This was a rebuttal to every voice that told her she wasn't polished enough, rich enough, light enough, quiet enough. To the teachers who marked her down for talking too much and being too expressive. To the fashion houses who'd borrowed her ideas, but never her face. This dress had to speak before she opened her mouth. It had to scream from across the carpet. I belong here, and so do the girls who look like me. She imagined textures that felt like home, denim, silk, and bandana prints. She wanted rhinestones that caught the light like street lamps on summer nights. She pictured gold, not dainty, but bold and heavy like front porch jewelry. Hair sculpted like art, nails like a crown. She wasn't interested in being subtle. The theme of the Met that year was rebellion and royalty. Perfect, because she was both. Royalty from a block they refused to see. Rebellion in heels they couldn't walk in. She spread her sketches across the table like blueprints for revolution. Each line, a love letter to the girls who knew what it meant to show up overdressed, overlooked, and still unbothered. She didn't need validation. She needed execution. And soon the world would watch a masterpiece unfold, not just stitched in fabric, but stitched in truth. She knew the game. The Met Gala was high fashion's Super Bowl, and even the best ideas needed a big name behind them to play on that carpet. So she swallowed her pride and reached out. Email after email, DM after DM. She sent mood boards, sketches, concepts. She wasn't asking for a handout. She was offering vision, soul, and a viral moment waiting to happen. The responses trickled in. We filled our guest list. Not aligned with our brand this season. Too urban. One message didn't even try to be subtle. You're not Met Gala material. That one stayed with her, not because it hurt, but because it confirmed what she already knew. They didn't see her as fashion. They saw her as a risk. Too loud, too untrained, too real. Still, she kept going. There had to be someone. That's when her homegirl sent a screenshot, a tweet from a young designer in Brooklyn named Zion Cade. His feed was full of radical beauty. Denim corsets, durag trains, Afrofuturist gowns that looked like Wakanda met the Bronx. She DM'd him. This might sound crazy, but I just got invited to the Met Gala. I have a vision. I need someone who sees it. He replied in 5 minutes. Say less. Let's make history. They met on Zoom that night. No agents, no PR teams. Just two black creatives with a shared mission, to turn a dress into a declaration. Zion didn't flinch when she said she wanted ghetto fab and regal. Didn't question the mix of streetwear and royalty. Didn't hesitate when she showed him a sketch inspired by both Nipsey Hussle and Nefertiti. He just nodded and said, it's time they see us in full color. And from that moment, it was on. No corporate sponsorship, no celebrity stylists, just two visionaries, fabric scraps, and a deadline that felt impossible. The fashion world had turned their backs. But that was fine, because they were building something bigger than couture. They were building a cultural moment, and soon the same designers who said no would be the first to repost. The night was a spectacle of limos, lights, and glittering stars, but she felt none of it. None of the luxury, none of the glitz. It wasn't her world, not yet. She stood backstage, eyes fixed on the frenzy of flashing cameras. The anticipation in the air felt like the last moment before the curtain goes up. She glanced at Zion, who was putting the final touches on her look, tugging at the hem of her gown, adjusting the gold chain that draped across her chest. The dress wasn't like anything anyone had seen on that carpet before. It wasn't the sleek, understated glamour they expected from a Met Gala starlet. It wasn't the haute couture so often paraded down that carpet, all polished and pristine. No, this dress was raw, unapologetic, and in a word, real. A tribute to every woman who made a statement without trying to fit the mold. Zion stepped back, nodding in approval. You're going to make them feel that. She felt her pulse quicken. She stepped out into the night. Her heels clicked on the pavement, each step louder than the next, and a hush fell over the crowd. The limo slowed. The music seemed to fade. The red carpet parted as if it knew something special was coming, like it could feel the gravity of her presence. The dress, a wild fusion of high fashion and street culture, shimmered in the spotlight. Denim fused with glistening, intricate beadwork, silk draped like liquid gold. Her hair, sculpted in a high-flying updo, an homage to the queens of the Harlem Renaissance. The nails, a statement of their own, glittered like stars. As she walked, the energy on the carpet shifted. The photographer's flashbulbs went off in rapid bursts, as if the dress itself was creating its own kind of gravity. The first few rows of the crowd glanced at each other, unsure. But by the time she reached the top of the carpet, something was happening, something unmistakable. Heads turned. Conversations halted. The whispers started, first in hushed tones. Who is she? Then louder. She's the one. She'd done it. She didn't just belong. She had commanded the carpet, and the world was finally taking notice. She smiled just for a second, because in this moment, it was clear. She wasn't just there to attend. She was there to make history. At first they hesitated. The cameras flickered, unsure. No one had quite seen a look like hers before. At least not here, at the Met Gala. The usual stars strutted down the carpet, heads high in their sleek Couture creations. While she stood in the midst of them, an ocean of light surrounding her like a thunderstorm about to break. Her presence was disruptive, unpredictable, unapologetic, and for a moment, that kind of energy paralyzed the room. The photographers, the designers, the celebrities who usually ran the show, they were all caught off guard. They weren't sure whether to focus on her or keep shooting the expected stars. Then it happened. The camera flashes went from uncertain clicks to rapid-fire, click, click, clicks. One by one, the photographers turned their lenses her way, the pulse of the red carpet vibrating with their rapid clicking. She could hear it now, the whispers and the stares. It wasn't just about the dress anymore. It was about her, the woman in the dress. A celebrity journalist shouted her name from the side, but she kept walking, poised, deliberate. They shouted again, louder this time. Who are you wearing? She didn't even look back. The dress answered for her. Her confidence answered for her. And slowly, other photographers and reporters started to turn. At first, there was an awkward silence, followed by hushed whispers among the top-tier stars in the front row. She could see the heads turning and feel the collective gaze from the industry's best. For years, they'd been told how to dress, how to show up. But now the red carpet had a new ruler. She kept moving, knowing she was already rewriting the narrative. Every click of the cameras was a page in the new story. And just like that, she wasn't an outsider. She wasn't the girl they dismissed. She was the one everyone wanted a shot of. As she passed the velvet ropes, she heard her name echo from every corner of the carpet. She's the one. She's the breakout star. And in that instant, she knew. The whispers, the hesitations, the doubt, they were all fading into history. She had arrived, and the world couldn't look away. The night stretched on, and as the minutes passed, the whispers that had once rippled through the crowd began to change. The same voices that had once snickered behind her back now started to shift, evolving into something else. The first wave of applause came not from the crowd, but from the critics. Not from the ones who had already dismissed her, but from those who hadn't yet made up their minds. The photographers, the bloggers, the fashion editors, they all did what they do best. They found an angle. Suddenly, the conversation on the red carpet was no longer about whether she belonged. It was about how she had made the carpet belong to her. By the time the after-party photos hit social media, her name was trending. Headlines that had once speculated about her being too urban now blared. The Met Gala's boldest statement. A new era of fashion. Her name steals the show. Ghetto? Number revolutionary? Absolutely. It was more than just a dress. It was an act of defiance against a system that tried to box her in, label her, and define her worth based on things she couldn't control. Now she was free, free to be herself, free to show the world that high fashion wasn't just the domain of the elite, but what truly stunned her was the response from the industry insiders, the ones who had written her off as a novelty or risky. Within hours, her Instagram DMs were flooded with messages from fashion houses that had once ignored her. A few were asking for interviews. Others wanted her to collaborate. One designer, whose name she'd grown up seeing on magazine covers, had sent a message that simply read, "I was wrong. I want to work with you." The praise didn't stop there. Social media erupted in support. Women across the country, across the world, were reposting her photos, flooding her timeline with messages of solidarity and pride. It wasn't just a win for her. It was a win for every woman who'd ever been told they didn't belong in a certain space because they didn't look a certain way. For the first time that night, she let herself smile. A quiet, satisfied smile. She had fought for this moment, and now the world had no choice but to bow to it. The night had ended, but the shift had already happened. She didn't need to see the tweets or the magazine covers the next day. She knew what she had done. The MET Gala wasn't just a high fashion event for her. It was the moment she shattered the ceiling that had been holding her down for so long. The industry was never the same after that. She wasn't just a trend. She was a movement. It didn't matter what they had called her before. She had transcended those labels. Within weeks, she had collaborations lined up with the biggest names in fashion. The doors that had once been slammed in her face were now wide open. But what made it all sweeter was that she wasn't entering those rooms as someone's protege or token. She was entering as herself, the unapologetic woman who had dared to be seen. Her designs became more than just clothing. They became a statement, a celebration of culture, of confidence, of everything that made her who she was. A girl from the block who had once been told she didn't belong, but had shown the world that not only did she belong, she was needed. The fashion industry shifted with her, beginning to recognize that true innovation didn't come from the most polished, the most pristine. It came from the raw, the real, the people who wore their heritage as their crown. She wasn't the exception anymore. She was the standard. Years later, they would still talk about the dress, but what they would really talk about was her, the black girl who took on the MET Gala and flipped it on its head, the woman who refused to let anyone tell her where she fit in because she knew she was meant to create a space. Not just in fashion, but in the world. The headlines had changed. Her legacy was made. And now every designer who walked that carpet knew one thing for certain. You don't make history by playing it safe. You make it by being you. As the cameras flash and the world watches, remember this. Your story isn't defined by the labels others place on you. It's shaped by your courage, your authenticity, and your refusal to shrink. This is your moment, just like it was hers. Keep breaking barriers. Keep making history.